I want you to think about the last time you were in an elevator. Just picture that exact moment for a second.
Yeah, that really mundane, everyday experience.
Exactly. You step inside, the doors slide shut, and you press the button for your floor. Usually it's a completely invisible experience.
You don't even think about it.
Right. But I want you to focus on that specific split second when the elevator shutters, or when it pauses between floors for just a fraction of a second too long.
Oh, I hate that feeling. My stomach always drops.
Same here. In that momentary weightlessness, you are suspended in a liminal space. I mean, you're just inside a metal box dangling by cables in a lightless shaft.
It is the ultimate vulnerability, isn't it? Like, we step into these automated boxes and we basically surrender all agency.
We really do.
We trust the architectural engineering. We trust that the digital mainframe knows exactly when to trigger the brakes and that, when those metal doors slide open, we will step out into the reality we intended to reach.
100%. Oh, and welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host.
And I'm your resident expert. And yeah, we accept this massive blind leap of faith simply because it's a mundane, everyday part of modern infrastructure.
But the text we're analyzing today asks a genuinely terrifying question. What happens when that structural trust is violently broken?
Yeah, the implications are just wild.
We are diving deep into a truly unsettling document titled The Terminal Floor and the Hollow Return.
A very heavy title.
Right. It is a meticulous, horrifying account of how a viral internet challenge, known as the elevator game, basically mutated from a late-night campus thrill into an escalating lethal phenomenon.
And our mission today is to tear this document apart. We need to understand the mechanics of how reality supposedly fractured, the biological terror of what came back, and how a localized incident broke containment.
Okay, let's unpack this by looking at Ground Zero. It's 1:11 a.m. 5 college students are crammed into a tiny elevator inside the Ashwood Heights apartments.
And the setting here is not incidental at all. The source emphasizes that Ashwood Heights is an ancient building.
Mostly abandoned, right?
Exactly. And notorious for severe, undocumented electrical problems.
Which, immediately makes me skeptical. If you're a group of college kids looking for a spooky environment, a building with faulty wiring and high EMF...
Electromagnetic fields, right?
Yeah, that is exactly where you'd go. So they've got cheap alcohol, a camera, and they're attempting a ritual they pulled off a forum.
One student, Vikram, is hyping it up for the camera, while another, Arjun, is clearly already regretting the entire idea.
You can just picture the tension. They're purposely trying to execute a specific sequence of button presses.
Right. The ritual requires hitting the 4th floor, then the 2nd, the 6th, back to the 2nd, the 10th floor, and finally the 5th floor.
As I was reading this, it felt so absurd. It reads perfectly like a video game cheat code,
Like hitting up, down, sound a tank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how does a sequence of physical buttons hack the actual physical laws of a building? Isn't an elevator panel just a glorified circuit board?
Yeah. Well, what's fascinating here is the intersection of outdated analog technology and human psychology. On a purely mechanical level, older elevator mainframes operate on relay logic.
Meaning they aren't digital.
Right. They weren't designed with modern digital safeguards. So it is theoretically possible that inputting a highly specific, contradictory sequence of commands without giving the system time to resolve the previous request—
Like spamming the buttons.
Exactly— could cause a buffer overflow, a glitch in the mainframe that forces the elevator to bypass its physical governors.
Okay, that makes sense mechanically.
But from a psychological standpoint, human beings are pattern-seeking machines. We are deeply drawn to the idea of secret knowledge.
Oh, absolutely.
The ritual exploits our belief that a mundane interface holds hidden dimensions if we just, input the right cipher.
Right, and by choosing a building with known electrical faults, they essentially built a psychological stage for themselves.
They expected flickering lights, they primed their own nervous systems for fear.
Blurring the line between mechanical failure and a supernatural event before they even press the first button.
Exactly. But that blur vanishes the moment they hit that final button for the 5th floor.
Yeah, the text explicitly notes a shift in the physical sensation. The elevator stops grinding. It moves too smoothly.
It's almost like it's gliding through water.
Right. And then the doors open on the 5th. According to the lore of the game, this is the breach point. This is where, quote, the woman enters.
And the visual transition described in the source is incredibly striking here. It really weaponizes the concept of liminality.
Set the scene for us. What does it look like?
At first glance, the 5th floor is just a hallway. Dim lighting, stained carpet, closed doors. It's the eerie comfort of the expected.
Until you look down the corridor.
Right.
At the far end, there's a tall woman standing perfectly still. Her face is obscured by thick black hair, and she is wearing a red coat.
But because the fluorescent lights are failing, the coat keeps shifting visually, looking almost pitch black.
And then she starts moving toward them. The text describes her movement not as walking, but as skipping frames,
Yeah, that part is so creepy.
like a corrupted video file trying to render a human walk cycle.
That specific detail, the skipping frames, is a massive red flag for visual processing lag.
What do you mean by that? Like a brain glitch?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
In moments of extreme, paralyzing terror, the human brain can actually fail to process continuous motion. It's called the flicker fusion threshold.
Oh, wow.
The brain is so overwhelmed with adrenaline that it only records snapshots of the threat, making a predator appear to teleport closer.
Okay, well, whether it was neurological lag or a genuine reality glitch, it completely paralyzed them. Arjun begs them to close the door, but nobody can move.
They're just frozen.
Yeah, they can't see her face, yet every student in that car feels the oppressive, crushing certainty that she is smiling at them.
Horrifying.
She stops inches from the threshold, tilts her head at an unnatural angle, and speaks. She asks, going up.
But the text describes the voice as layered, right?
Yes. It wasn't one voice. It was multiple people speaking the identical phrase at the exact same millisecond, hiding beneath her tone.
And that auditory detail is what snaps Vikram out of his freeze response. He just hammers the closed door button.
The doors slide shut, isolating them from the entity. They think they're safe, but then the elevator starts moving up.
And it's moving fast.
The digital display above the door begins counting 11, 12, 13, 14, which shouldn't exist.
No, because Ashford Heights is only a 10-story building.
Right. They've bypassed the physical roof of the structure. The display flashes error, the main lights die, and a single red emergency bulb flickers on.
And then the doors open, and the architecture of their reality is just entirely gone.
They are no longer in an apartment building. They are looking out into a dead world,
Endless blackness.
illuminated only by a dim red sky somewhere far off. The source describes massive, impossibly tall black buildings disappearing into a heavy, suffocating fog. Absolute silence.
And the atmospheric pressure is wrong, too.
Yeah, the air feels so dense that the students feel like if they stepped out, they wouldn't fall down. They would fall upward into the red sky forever.
It is a total inversion of natural laws.
Ah.
And the golden rule of the internet ritual is absolute at this juncture. Under no circumstances do you exit the elevator.
Yet Arjun does. And I have to be honest, here is where I really struggle with the narrative. Why would he leave?
Well, the source says some students thought he looked hypnotized.
Right, and others thought they heard his name being called from the fog. But the security camera footage recovered later just shows Arjun calmly walking out into the red mist, never once looking back.
And the second his foot leaves the threshold, the doors violently slam shut and the elevator drops.
It free falls, plummeting back down to the lobby. When the doors finally open, 40 minutes have inexplicably passed, and Arjun is gone.
The ensuing police investigation turns up nothing. No forced exits, no camera footage of him in stairwells, no cellular pings.
He simply ceased to occupy space in our world.
Literally vanished.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. High EMF fields from faulty wiring are proven to cause intense feelings of paranoia, a sense of being watched, and extreme auditory hallucination.
Sure, absolutely.
Add sleep deprivation, adrenaline, and alcohol to that, and you have the perfect recipe for a shared delusion. Could they have just been stuck between floors for 40 minutes hallucinating while Arjun managed to pry the doors open and crawl into the shaft?
It's a highly logical theory, and it's exactly what the local authorities assumed. The police treated it as a tragic accident fueled by a viral stunt,
Right.
but that theory completely collapses 3 days later.
So what does this all mean? I want to pose a thought experiment to you, listening right now. If someone you love deeply vanishes without a trace, that is a profound, life-altering trauma. It is a horrifying absence.
Oh, without a doubt.
But is that absence actually preferable to their return if the thing that walks through the front door is wearing their face like a poorly fitted mask?
That dilemma is the emotional core of this deep dive. Because exactly 3 days later, at 3:02 a.m., the lobby security camera captures the elevator descending.
He arrives completely alone.
The doors open and Arjun steps out.
He is barefoot, covered in dirt. The night guard, terrified but trying to help, rushes over. And Arjun looks at him and smiles.
And the text notes that this specific smile was so deeply disturbing that the night guard immediately walked out and quit his job.
Just left right then and there.
The guard's testimony is vital here. He stated the smile was, quote, too wide.
Ugh.
He said it looked like Arjun had practiced the physical muscle movements in a mirror without actually understanding the emotional trigger for why humans smile.
There was no eye involvement.
None. No micro-expressions, just an empty mechanical stretching of the lips.
Arjun goes back to his dorm, refusing to see a doctor. And this is where the symptoms of this hollow return truly manifest.
His roommates realize almost immediately that the thing in their apartment is not Arjun.
He doesn't sleep. He stops blinking unless something literally touches his eye.
Which is horrifying.
He stands perfectly still by the window for 6-7 hours at a time, just staring into the dark campus.
Oh.
And his voice is off.
Yeah, it sounds imitated, like software trying to replicate human cadence after only hearing it once.
If we connect this to the bigger picture... Wait, actually, you explain this. What is going on biologically here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are dealing directly with the neuroscience of the uncanny valley and a terrifying real-world condition called Capgras delusion.
Break that down for us. Why does a slightly off smile make a night guard quit his job?
It comes down to the fusiform face area. It's a specialized region in your brain dedicated solely to recognizing and processing human faces.
Okay.
Millions of years of evolution have fine-tuned this processor to detect healthy, safe members of our own species. When we see a cartoon or a robot, the brain categorizes it as an object, no threat.
Right, it knows it's fake.
Exactly. But when we encounter something that perfectly mimics human anatomy but lacks fundamental human microbehaviors.
Like the lack of blinking or an asymmetrical speech cadence.
Yes, the fusiform face area misfires. It doesn't signal weird human. It signals a massive evolutionary alarm to your amygdala, the fear center.
It screams disease, pathogen, imposter.
Exactly. The roommate's biology was actively warning them that a predator had infiltrated their space.
And what's terrifying is that this biological alarm wasn't contained just to the people living with him. The phenomenon begins to infect the minds of everyone who was in that elevator.
Every single student from that night begins suffering from identical recurring nightmares.
They dream of the red sky, the heavy fog, and the endless empty streets. But they aren't alone. In every dream, there are figures watching them from the distant black rooftops.
Smiling.
This completely fractures the hallucination theory, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A shared hallucination during an event is one thing, but synchronized, identical recurring nightmares days later point to a psychological contagion.
The boundary between whatever space they entered and our reality is beginning to erode.
And it pushes Vikram, the student who initiated the ritual, to his breaking point. He decides he has to confront Arjun.
The exchange lasts less than 5 minutes, but it changes everything. Vikram asks, "Do you remember what happened in there?"
And Arjun gives that wide, artificial smile and simply says, "There are many elevators."
A statement that instantly shifts the scale. He isn't talking about Ashwood Heights anymore.
Not at all.
Vikram demands to know what that means. Arjun tilts his head, his voice drops, and he says, "The doors open both ways. They followed me back."
That line is just chillin'.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is the pivot point in the document. The phenomenon transitions from a localized haunting into an active, aggressive invasion.
Because that very night, the campus security systems capture an outbreak.
Across multiple separate dormitories.
Right. Students, none of whom have any connection to Arjun, are filmed sleepwalking out of their rooms at 3 a.m. They walk to their respective dorm elevators, step inside, and don't press a single button.
They just stand there, perfectly motionless, staring up into the corner's security cameras, wearing that exact same impossibly wide smile until the sun comes up.
And none of them remember it happening. The entities from the Red City are testing the connection.
They are using the elevator shafts as conduits, basically reaching through the building's architecture to puppet the students.
It sparks sheer panic on campus. And then the disappearances begin.
A freshman vanishes after taking an elevator alone,
Yeah.
then a sophomore. The campus completely abandons the elevators. I mean, stairwells are flooded with terrified students.
Rumors of mass hysteria circulate. And just as you might be tempted to write this off as psychological contagion, as folia do, on a mass scale.
Vikram discovers the smoking gun.
Yes.
He manages to get into Arjun's room and finds a hidden, untitled video file on Arjun's laptop. It was filmed on Arjun's phone from inside the Red World.
Which completely shatters any theory about carbon monoxide or EMF. It's objective, digital proof.
The video starts in pitch black. just the sound of panicked, heavy breathing. As the camera slowly adjusts to the dim red light, we see the dead city, the impossibly tall black buildings cutting through the heavy fog.
But the city isn't dead at all.
No, the camera pans up, revealing that the windows of those endless skyscrapers are occupied. Thousands of tall, motionless silhouettes are standing at the glass.
All of them smiling down at him.
Arjun is holding the phone, and you hear him whisper, "They keep asking for names." And then comes the climax of the footage. Something shifts in the fog behind him.
It looks vaguely human, but its anatomy is entirely wrong.
The limbs are bent at acute, incorrect angles, like a spider trying to stand on two legs. As it approaches the camera lens, the real Arjun realizes what he's looking at.
The entity is wearing his face.
But the skin is stretched incredibly tight, locked in a massive, inhuman smile. The real Arjun backs away, trembling, and whispers into the microphone, "It copied me."
And the video abruptly cuts to black. That footage is the horrifying confirmation of everything the roommates suspected.
The thing that returned on the third day wasn't to traumatize Arjun.
It was the mimic. The real Arjun never made it out of the red fog.
Vikram immediately takes the laptop to the local authorities. But by the time the police kick down the door to Arjun's apartment, it's empty.
The mimic has vanished from a locked room on the 4th floor. No forced entry, no open windows.
But it has left something behind. Every single mirror in the apartment has been meticulously draped in black cloth. Every mirror, except one.
The bathroom mirror.
Right. And written across the glass, from the inside out, meaning the wet fingerprints were pressed against the back of the glass, are 5 words.
Don't let them use elevators.
Just writing that from behind the glass is unthinkable.
This raises an important question for you to consider. Look around at the nature of modern human existence. We live our entire lives in vertical environments.
Elevators are the circulatory system of the globe.
Exactly. They are in our apartment complexes, our office buildings, our hospitals. We spend cumulatively years inside these suspended boxes.
If the premise of this source material holds true, we have inadvertently engineered millions of liminal doorways into the heart of our most secure spaces.
If these shafts are two-way conduits, then there is absolutely nowhere left to hide.
And the final section of the document confirms that the containment has utterly failed. With the proof captured on video, the phenomenon explodes.
It stops being an isolated tragedy at a Midwestern college and spirals into a global, escalating epidemic.
The text details a sudden spike in missing persons reports across major metropolitan cities, different countries, different architectural structures.
But the underlying mechanism remains completely identical. An individual steps into an elevator alone. There is a brief malfunction between floors.
A slight shudder, a momentary pause in the descent.
And when the doors finally open on the lobby level, the person who steps out is fundamentally wrong.
It's an epidemic of hollow returns. The exact same symptoms cascade through the population. Unnatural smiles, bizarre prolonged pauses in the middle of sentences.
People suddenly forgetting how to swallow water or how to blink.
The source suggests that these entities are flooding into our world, replacing people, frantically trying to blend into society, but failing to perfectly replicate basic human biology.
And the most chilling piece of corroborating evidence in the entire document comes from security analysts monitoring these buildings.
Oh man, this specific detail actually made me sick to my stomach. When these elevators experience that brief malfunction between floors, when the car goes dark and shutters in the shaft, the security cameras occasionally capture what the text refers to as extra passengers.
Figures standing silently in the back corners of the elevator car, directly behind the returning victims.
Tall figures in red coats that nobody remembers walking into the elevator. They never press a button. They never speak.
They simply stand in the back, motionless, staring at the back of the victim's head.
Smiling patiently. Just waiting for the digital display to hit the ground floor so the doors can open and they can step out into our reality.
It is a masterful, deeply disturbing corruption of the mundane. The true horror of this deep dive isn't the existence of a red sky or an alternate dimension.
Right. The horror is how the source material completely violates an everyday space that we take entirely for granted. We step into these metal boxes multiple times a day.
We let the doors close, we cut ourselves off from the physical world, and we trust unconditionally that the space inside remains our own.
But the text argues that trust is a fatal illusion. We are actively suspending ourselves in a void, completely vulnerable to whatever might be quietly waiting in the dark architecture between floors.
And it leaves you with a highly invasive psychological fear The suspicion that the person standing next to you in the lobby, the person who looks exactly like your coworker, your neighbor, or your friend, might just be an approximation.
A biological mimic that hasn't quite figured out how to move its facial muscles correctly yet.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the end of our dive today. I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We all stare at that digital display above the door. We watch the numbers tick by, counting down until we reach the safety of our destination.
It's just human nature to watch the numbers.
Right. But the next time you step into an empty elevator, the next time you hear the mechanical hum of the door sliding shut, and you feel that slight, unexpected shudder as the car passes through the dark shaft between floors. How can you be entirely 100% sure that when those doors finally open, you are still the only one in